So when I was growing up and being taught about American politics, I always thought that the bully pulpit was or the relationship between the president and the media, that the president can be a bully towards the media. But I realized a few days ago, watching the South African president in the Oval Office, it has a different meaning, doesn't it?
Yeah, so, the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, came and visited the United States. I mean, he visited when Biden was still president. I think probably expecting some foreign aid or maybe playing some discussions, because they came here asking for money. They're like, we need help with law enforcement. We need help with this and that. We have one of the highest murder rates in the world. And they're basically saying a lot of the problems Trump is raising is being caused by gangs. And they actually said by illegal immigrants who cross their borders and then commit murders. But Trump had something else planned. Trump sprung his trap card, basically. Huh. And it was interesting because, the South African president arrives and he's like, Mr. President, I will present to you an image of our country if you will listen. And then Trump just kind of says, how about this? And he's like, dim the lights. Dim the lights. And
roll it.
And roll the camera. Let me show you how that went when Trump says dim the lights. Let me show you this clip, actually.
We have news stories and that. Is Natalie here? Somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things, and it has to be responded to. Yeah. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? There must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill. Yamasa. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. To kill. Yamasa. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
So it teaches us that Trump watches primetime, because we've been covering this.
There we go. I mean, it went kind of the same way. So afterwards, the whole video plays out. You have this guy. He's the head of the economic freedom fighters, right? I've commented. I think the only thing communists free people from is a food supply, or they free their souls from their bodies. That's about all communists ever free people from. But they have this whole conversation, and Trump's showing them, the receipts, basically. The video continues. Not only is the guy singing the song, and the crazy thing is, most of the mainstream media full-on ran cover for the guy. They were like, oh, this is an apartheid-era song, which, of course, apartheid era had, you still had communists, and they were putting tires around people's necks and lighting them on fire, like some of the main people that people still praise these days. But long story short, it wasn't just that Trump showed him. Trump shows them this guy saying that killing is a revolutionary act. You don't need to be afraid of killing. That has nothing to do with the Kill the Boer song, but it does actually suggest that this is a broader policy that party has. And then Trump also, in the end of the video, shows the white crosses that they're not grave sites, but they represent, every one of them, a white farmer who was killed in one way or another by...
And that was the top story of New York Times. They were debunking the white crosses, saying that they weren't actually grave. But if you read the article, they even say they represent people who were killed.
Well, it's a total change of narrative, because nobody ever... I don't think Trump said that they were actual grave sites. I think Trump commented that these... I mean, again...
That's what they were debunking.
Again, this is a memorial. It's a memorial where every cross represents somebody who's killed. And then Trump, in the interview, then Trump pulls out a stack of papers, and every one of them is a recent white farmer who's been murdered. And he just goes through it, and he's like, I'm going to give these to you. And he hands them to the African president.
And then he kind of covers, if you notice, when he gets the articles, they have like all the faces of the people who were killed. And he's kind of like covering them like this, so the camera doesn't show him with it on it. But my question is, when I look at that, and you can hear what some of the journalists, they ask, what would you want the South African leader to do about this?
Yeah.
And he says, I don't know, I'm just looking.
Well, So this is the big part that a lot of media totally left out of the conversation. Because if you watch the video, the South African president says that's a different party. That is the opposition party to ours. That's nothing to do with us. He brought his agriculture minister there, who's an actual white farmer, who's actually part of another party, but not the Communist Party. There's two communist groups effectively doing that. And he says, you know, a lot of this is gangs. A lot of it is just, like, South Africa is one of the highest murder rates in the world. The white African farmers, they represent about 1% of the people being murdered. Again, it's still a lot, but they say it's not as much comparatively. The other argument, though, that's come about is that they don't document a lot of the killings of the white farmers. A lot of them go undocumented. And then you could also say, look, you can have a high crime country, but Trump said you're not protecting these people or anything else. But what's left out of the conversation is this. That South African president signed into law the policy that allows for the seizing of land without compensation. He actually signed it into law.
Not just land, it's actually property in general.
Yeah, property. And then Trump raised the issue, like, look, your farmers, and call them whatever you want, those white African farmers, they're about 80% of the farmland in Africa, or 80% of the farmers there, they all want to leave. And they're going in record numbers. They're trying to go to Australia, trying to go to the United States. And he's like, look, you lose your farmers, what's going to happen to your country? You need to care about this.
Yeah, like he mentioned that the proportion of the white farmers killed is less than their overall percentage of the population, which sounds like, okay, that's reasonable. But if you really think about it, basically the white farmers live separately from the inner cities for the most part. And so naturally they would have less of a crime rate because it's more of a rural community to begin with. But then if you actually, like those articles that Trump gave to him, or if you watch, there was a great documentary by Laura Southern, where she went through a lot of these stories about the white farmers. Like, these aren't like what the South African president is describing, that it's like just like overall crime and white farmers are an aspect of the overall crime. Like, these are revenge murders. These are like gangsters, thugs coming in and killing people in like medieval brutal ways, third world ways, as revenge for historic injustices. Right? And the media, I guess, sort of sympathizes with those historical injustices, I guess, if I'm being,
Politically correct.
Politically correct, I guess. I'm sympathetic to the media. They're more aligning with those historical injustices. But I want to read you something. So this is from Wikipedia. I normally wouldn't cite it, but it's a decent definition. So this is the definition for stochastic terrorism. So stochastic terrorism is a form of political violence instigated by hostile public rhetoric directed at a group or an individual. Unlike incitement to terrorism, stochastic terrorism is accomplished with indirect, vague, or coded language, which grants the instigator plausible deniability for any associated violence. And so basically, the argument is that South Africa is a stochastic terrorist state.
So kind of like if they said they should 86 the African farmers, kind of, right?
You know what? Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. 86, yeah. Perfect analogy there. But the idea is that you have the rhetoric of the politicians that's just going out there like a megaphone to the whole country. And when you have rallies with how many people, like 1 million people or hundreds of thousands of people?
Hundreds of thousands, I believe. They're about 20% of the country is voting for that party.
Okay, so you have a significant chunk of the political segment openly calling for the death of this group. It basically says that you can attack that group with impunity because that group is no longer protected. Then you have the president sign the law saying we can confiscate the property of that group. It again reinforces this idea that that group is no longer protected. So even though
in his public statements, he even cited racial issues as being part of the motivation for doing it.
Let me ask you, what is the significance of South Africa being a BRICS nation to this?
Well, so this is a big issue too, and this actually might. I was thinking about this because what the individuals with the South African president were asking for was more U.S. engagement in South Africa. One of the big issues with South Africa being a BRICS nation is they're very close to the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP bribes a lot of the public officials. This is not just a South Africa thing. It's all of Africa for the most part, and a lot of other countries. They bribe them. They publicly do what's called castle diplomacy. And this is not even some like secret thing. They go there, the CCP goes there, and they literally build mansions for public officials, and they bribe them with mansions. Corruption is fully in the open there. It's not something they even try to hide. It is just thorough, complete, absolute corruption. And the CCP does this and just conquers effectively the whole region.
You know, I do appreciate open corruption, to be honest.
I wish we had that clip. Did you see that? It's been circulating. I sent it to Tiffany yesterday.
Corruption is not bad. Corruption is only bad if I'm not involved.
Yes.
But if I'm part of that corruption, I'll defend it.
Although I do think, to his credit, he's basically giving the analogy of how the politicians work there.
I believe so.
So what do you think is the outcome of this visit in terms of moving South Africa closer to the U.S. versus
Well, I was thinking
China,
about this
Iran?
because what Marco Rubio, in fact, let me show you this. So Marco Rubio discussing with the press, again, he's talking about immigration that is merit-based, immigration that people are already vetted, and he's saying, you know, look, these people are productive members of society, they're hard workers, and they'll benefit our society if we bring them here. They will be a net positive to the United States, not a net negative. Briefly, before I show you the clip, I was thinking about that, and I was like, you know, in American interest, it would actually benefit us to just bring every one of the Afrikaners here. It would cure South Africa of all these problems because they want to have these racial divides. Good. They're finally leaving. They're coming here. You'd probably have South Africa fall into a famine, and a lot of people would probably die. But this is what they've been asking for, some of them at least. And so that would be an American interest. But the other side is, well, maybe it is better because the United States is trying to push the CCP out of Africa. It may be in the U.S. interest to try to fix these problems for them and actually have more U.S. engagement. But on the racial front, this is a whole other argument because the media. A lot of the big corporate media, they are absolutely defending white genocide. And they're making it like the biggest scandal in the world that Trump brought like over 50 people out of 20 million, 50 people who are white to the country. Let me show you how this went when Marco Rubio was talking about it. Watch this.
We're entitled to entrance as a refugee if you demonstrate a well-justified fear of persecution.
No, you're not entitled.
So
you're
can
allowed.
you have a different standard based upon the color of somebody's skin? Would that be acceptable?
Well, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently you are, because you don't like the fact that they're white, and that's why they're
I'm just asking
coming.
you to say that would be unacceptable.
Well, no,
that
I would say that the United States,
a very easy thing
the United
to say.
States has a right to pick and choose who they allow into the United States.
Even based on the color of somebody's skin.
You're the one that's talking about the color of their skin, not me. These
You're
are people whose
refusing to
farms were being
acknowledge
burned
that it
down and they
should
were
be
killed because of the
even-handed.
color of their skin. We are going to prioritize people that come into our country on the basis of what's in the interest of this country. That's a small number of people that are coming.
But
in
you
that
said
particular case.
this weekend that
but
there
in
would
other
be more.
cases, it's harder to vet.
And that's part of the argument. Like the Trump administration, they don't seem to care the color of these people's skin. But it's all the media and kind of pushback against it. And on the other hand, though, you could argue that Marco Rubio and the Trump administration, they do seem to believe that the Afrikaners are valuable immigrants. They're people who are, again, demonstrated hard workers, demonstrated in the country they're in right now to be, again, some of the hardest workers, some of the best people that country has in terms of labor. They're propping up 80% of the food industry. It's incredible. So it would be a net positive to bring them here.
Well, but I mean, to that point, to just steelman that senator's argument, there are many people who would also qualify around the world to be brought in as refugees, like the Syrian Christians who are being slaughtered, right? But they're not getting a fast track. So I mean, it does seem like there's ethnic alignment between the white Afrikaners and.
So the argument Marco Rubio had on that was vetting, the vetting process. It's not that they're favoring people because like they're white or whatever. Is basically what he's saying. He said there's a process we have to make sure they're not terrorists, they're not gang members, they're not criminals, they're not going to come here and cause problems. And it's an easier process, in particular with the white Afrikaners, because it's very easy to vet them. Whereas a lot of other countries, the vetting process is a lot more difficult.
All right.
Can I throw something else in
Please,
super fast? I'm just back to the meeting in the Oval Office. So Trump's done that to Zelensky. He's just done that here. You can kind of say he kind of did it to Carney from Canada, like nice country you've got there. It'd be a shame to lose it. I I'm going to guess that Xi Jinping isn't going to step anywhere near the Oval Office, but wouldn't it be just great if he called him out on organ harvesting in China
that'd
in
be
that
fantastic.
exact
Who wants
same
to go
way?
on the Trump show now? Really, that's what it seems like. Like you mentioned, the bully pulpit. It seems like this is his show. When you're sitting down in the Oval Office, he's interviewing.
I'm waiting
putting
for
them on the spot.
I'm waiting for Trump to offer amnesty to everyone from Alberta.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really waiting for.
All right, I know exactly what you're thinking. That was a great clip you just watched. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to follow and also check out either these videos or maybe they're on this side. I don't know which side they're on, but we set it up. So these are the videos that YouTube is suggesting to you as the best ones that you'll probably like the most. So check them out, this side, and until next